another thing that I wanted to point out too about this movie is, okay, so what I didn't like was that I kept hoping for some sort of redemption and it never came, and that was probably the most disappointing thing. Is just you're literally just in a whirlpool forever, and there's just like no way of getting out of it. But also, what's like what kept sticking out to me is um sort of like the way that Americans and like the CIA are framed in this movie, which is very like friendly, very like cutesy funny. They bring like comedic relief. Um and then it's like move forward to like these indigenous nations that can't, protect themselves. They are infighting, like you said, and they can't agree on their resources. Um, yeah, which are all tropes. Like they're all yeah, but anyway, okay. So with that in mind, it's like as an audience, you're forced to choose sides. Like you're forced to choose between like the good and the bad. And somehow the Americans don't have anything to do with that. They fall into the background, and we're supposed to like refer to them as like our favorite colonizers, which I will never ever do. Like liberalism takes everything, but they're not going to take that word away from us. Like I will always identify my enemies as like the colonizers, as settlers, because in reality they're hoarding wealth, they're stealing land, they're imprisoning our people. Leonard Peltier, like the FBI, CIA, the US is responsible for the injustices of Leonard Peltier and just like, yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that, like, do not ever like turn colonizer or settler into an affectionate term. That's never going to be a term of endearment, damn it. um, anyway, so that was also what made me so uncomfortable about this movie is that it's such a false like representation of like everybody in it, especially the Americans. Like that's so disturbing to me that they would sort of like change this narrative or like redefine like the CIA or like the US government as like this cutesy friendly entity when it's not. And in reality, like if Wakanda existed, like the US would be planning like a coup, like to take vibranium or to like um force Wakanda like into submission or like take away their sovereignty, take away their resources and their wealth. Like that, so I just like could not believe like just how much the US propaganda is in this film and the like reframing of their position as like this, I don't know, in a way it's like kind of trying to, I don't like, I guess maybe like I don't know if disarm is the right word, or to like encourage oppressed peoples and colonized people to like let their guard down. Like, America's not that bad. Like, you know, we're not this like powerful, like global dominating country, like this death machine. We're not that. Like, look at these people, they're funny. They can have good relations with other, it's just so I can't believe I could not. That's like one thing I was not letting go of like in this movie, was just like I don't believe it for a second. Like I'm not taking this US propaganda, like, oh god, please just erase it from my memory.
Like there's like the good CIA and the bad CIA, because there's like, at the beginning of the movie, Angela Bassett, who plays the Queen of Wakanda, is at the UN, and you find out there's like this scene, right, where the French have sent in a covert their version, I'm assuming, of the CIA or whatever operation to steal vibranium from a Wakandan facility where I forgot where it was, and then she like hauls all of the paramilitary dudes, the special ops, the French special ops dudes in, and she like confronts the French president or whoever that person is representing France at the UN, and she's like, "Don't do this." And so then there are parts of the CIA that are trying to get vibranium through like the sneaky US imperial maneuvers, right? The coup kind of aspects. But you have Julia Louis Dreyfus, and then Elena, you pointed out, I don't actually remember his name. It's the British actor who plays Bilbo in The Hobbit, right? And so you have these kind of like the friendly faces of the CIA, which actually has always bothered me about Marvel movies. That's why Iron Man is my least favorite in the entire Marvel universe, because Iron Man is played by what's his face. I was going to say Robert Redford. It's not Robert Downey Jr. It's not Robert Redford, and he's also kind of like small in stature. He's like really funny, right? He's like very likable. He's like a charismatic character. But he's just like a stan for the U.S. Army, the U.S. military and U.S. imperialism, and most Marvel characters are in general. And so this one is also positioning like Wakanda as making an evaluation between who's like the good CIA and the bad CIA, and these are like the good colonizers. And then you have the underwater nation Tulkins, what?
Tolakan.
Talokan. The Talokan, they're like, these motherfuckers are our enemy. Like, they are not our friends. None of them are good. They will never stop coming for us. And so there is like a type of anti-colonial politics in there that does have a standard, like knowing who the enemy is and being willing to act to like protect, to not just protect one's nation, but protect the water and to protect the land. And not just for themselves, but for like, humanity and for the sake of the planet. And so that does exist in the film, but it's portrayed as like the bad Indians. It's like the bad Indians are the ones who don't know how to make friends with the good colonizers. And that's what feels really racist about and really anti-liberation. It's like basically mocking and then, speaking of liberation struggles, Black Indigenous liberation struggles historically that have been deeply and militantly, anti-colonial or anti-racist or anti-capitalist or anti-imperial, and then like portraying them with derision or almost like mockery. And that's why I was bringing up like the dumb wings on Notamor's legs or his ankles, and then the little wing tip ears or whatever. It almost feels like a mockery of a kind of like strong anti-colonial liberation formation. And so it's like, okay, so you're mocking liberation. You're just mocking liberation. You're mocking the gesture and the necessity of solidarity between people of the global South. We need to talk more about like that this is a very American interpretation also of like what constitutes liberation politics in the global South, which makes it a deeply imperialist movie. Just like the unconscious of the movie is deeply imperialist because it's very American exceptionalist, it's very US centric.